Good day, everyone, and welcome to my bonus material that I've decided to make another audio clip to add into extra material of just more stories about the truth of my personal experiences with the other side. I've decided that I want to share more truth about my life, and also I've had experiences since even making the audio the story about my life that is on my YouTube channel. If you type in on the channel, The Canadian Healing Medium, my page will come up, and then you can find my story by just clicking on my playlist, and it's under the title Leveling You Up for Teachings. So the added material I would like to share about is going to be more of the darkness, of the darker energies and levels. But first, I'm going to share about my akashic record readings, and you're actually going to get the audio that is recorded from those sessions that I've had with two individuals that are very beautiful souls that are giving back in their life. One is Rosalyn Fung, and the other is Andy Grant. And I had a show that is on my YouTube channel as well, with Akashic record reading with Andy Grant as he shares about his life. And I've taken a clip out of that as he shares about the truth of who I am and what I'm here doing. And it will align to my story of things I've shared in my story. And also with Rosalyn Fung. She's going to, I have audio clips of our sessions together, and she's going to share about what she has seen through my records of the truth of who I am and what I'm here doing. And also she's going to be sharing about the effects of the levels that I've cleared, and also about my twin flame and the experiences of the truth of me and my twin flame that are also in the original story that I have on my YouTube channel. So before I share more about the stories, I'm going to add in a clip, and the first clip you're going to hear now is with Andy Grant, and it's just opening my records and the first bit that he's seen about the truth about why I'm here, and more truth about the essence of who I am within this physical form. And then it's going to go directly into Rosalyn Fung, and you're going to hear Rosalyn Fung opening up my records and what she sees. And it's about 8 minutes in total. So I want to gift you with more from other people as they have opened up my Akashic record readings. And also, please look on my video. I'm going to have the links if you wish to connect with them. They are both highly gifted, and I have so much respect for each of them with the work that they're doing. And please, if you feel that you want a record reading about your own records, about your soul, the essence of who you are, and any information about it, please seek them, reach out to them. It's going to make a difference in your life to help you, to assist you in whatever way that you feel that you need answers for, or things you desire to know. These are two beautiful souls to connect with. And now I'll play the audio.
The records are now open. What would you like to ask?
More about, I guess, the unfolding of things that are to come on my path is for me to really invest my time in on my purpose on giving back.
Your unfolding analogy is ideal. The imagery for Andy as he opened your records, it was the unfolding of Pegasus's wings, and there is no limit to the extent of that unfolding. Your connection to the divine is meant to keep deepening and deepening, and that with that massive wingspan, it's meant to encompass and hold and bring more and more people in. Your best path of discovery is what brings you the most delight. You're naturally drawn to your next step. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I should think. It's not about thinking harder. It really is just trusting. You're just going to fall into it. Everything's going to seem to just appear in your lap when it's the time to do it and to take actions on it. But yeah, the invitation for you this lifetime is about taking it all in. Again, like this massive wingspan, these huge Pegasus wings, these huge angelic arms of yours are meant to just go wider and wider and take and receive, so that You can hug more souls, more bodies, more of humanity into that. It's this, at the same time, you're a leader, you're at the forefront, and at the same time, you're a teacher. So you can just be a millisecond ahead of those you're serving. Like that's how real time you're really at the leading edge of everything you're discovering is to be shared. As soon as you grasp it, you're sharing it. You're making it part of your routine. You're making it part of how you help and serve people. And there there's no end. Right? This is infinite. So there's not a time like, all right, I think I'm done. Yeah, no. and there may be times where you'll wish you were done. So it's important to, again, realize that though you are these infinite angelic wings of spiritual power and you are supported, you are still a physical body. So the only warning around this is, don't deny your physicality. So there'll be times like, I just need to rest, right? I need water, I need food. I'm called to something, but my physical body has needs too. So that's really the only warning about this journey.
Beautiful. Feel free to stay inside as I read the prayer. And so we do acknowledge the forces of light, asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth as it is revealed for our highest good and highest good of everyone connected to us. O Holy Spirit of God, help me to know Jeffrey in the light of the akashic records, to see Jeffrey through the eyes of the lords of the records. Enable me to share the wisdom and compassion that the masters, teachers, and loved ones of Jeffrey have for him. The records are now open. Woo, Jeffrey, it feels so good to be in records. So elevated. I can really feel this beautiful white divine light. I'm just trying to feel like where it's coming from. Like feels like it's coming from top down and bottom up, and then it just moves out. Your energy really expands right here in the third eye and the heart chakra right between here. It's really wide and it's beautiful and expansive. And then it's just very, from the earth energy, it's just very, it's kind of like there's a field of beings and angels, and there's such a huge team. And it's like, I see you, and then you have these huge angel wings. Oh, I mean, I knew your energy was like super angelic, but like, wow, like, to feel the power, to literally feel the power of your records is wow, and to see it, how beautiful. Yeah, they're so proud. It was like an army of love, an army of angels, and it's not just angels. I really feel like light beings.
Yeah.
Beautiful. They're all like just standing in this beautiful crowd, just like very concentrated behind you. But yeah, they're so proud of you.
Are they all the ones that I've restored?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a yes right away. Oh, and they're always with you. So just know if you ever doubt yourself that they're here, that you can connect in with them like more consciously.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like you have not everybody has like an army of, like, I haven't seen that, like this big of an army. Like holy moly, you've got a big army of angels and people.
I've literally cleared out whole domains of levels of vibrations of those that are suffering.
Okay, so masters, teachers, and loved ones, can you give some insight into the truth between Tennille and Jeffrey? Okay, they're showing me, they're bringing me to the past. Holy shit. You guys were, like, I see you both in this past life, where you're like this, like, I want to say power couple, but it feels too modern to say that, but you were. And you were leading, I keep hearing leading armies. Like she was like a warrior, and you were a warrior. I see you both holding hands. You're dressed like warriors, and you're leading, like literally, like an army of people. What's happening here? And you're holding hands. You're looking out over. It's like almost like a cliff. Like it feels like Sedona or something. And you're looking over, and you both look very, it's almost like Marvel character sort of like, but you're
Yeah.
looking very like superhero like. There's a sunrise or sunset. Sorry, okay, sunset. What are you looking out into? Out into the world. You're protecting, you're guarding, what's the reference here? Like it's definitely you're like fighting for love. What are you fighting from? This is interesting. I never have to look back and further back. So I'm trying to see. This is fun. I feel like a dark force. So it very much is like a Marvel movie I'm watching.
Yeah.
It's like the dark force is like a mist, like a cloud of black, and it's this beautiful sunset.
Yeah.
You're both standing there like you're ready to like blast your like your love energy and vibration, and like literally you have these skills to do that. You're both not human because obviously humans can't just do that. You're beings in human form. It is literally like Marvel.
Well, different worlds, different realities are that way. Yeah.
So it's kind of like you've got like this Care Bear stare, and you're like force field of love energy protecting it. You're protecting your army of people. Those, they feel more like villagers, like you're protecting this city or town. It feels more like a city than a town. You complement each other. I'm just tapping more into the relationship, but your relationship is so powerful. You complement each other. You're both you're very equal in your strengths, and you have different superpowers that complement.
Yeah.
So together you create like it's almost like the yin yang, right? They're saying twin flames, so it's very much like you are the same soul, sharing the same soul.
So again, I'm very grateful to have shared that information with everyone. It's a beautiful gift when we can find people that are around this world that have their special gifts and abilities to be able to have a strength in a way to be able to give back. And I'm very grateful for those two that you've just listened to have been a part of my life, to give me more understandings of the truth of who I am, that align to me, to have more truths open up since then and also before, where it brought an alignment to my life, to having more understandings to help me on my path. The first experience I would like to share about is when I first came across the wings on my back, and I'm going to share about the wings on my back and how I came across them for the first time. I was listening to Milan Mortz. She has beautiful guided meditations that you can find, and also her singing. It brings in healing of the vibration of her tones and vocals that she transmits through the other side, through her in her singing. And there is much healing that happens for your soul through her voice. But she also has guided meditations put together. And you can find them on her YouTube channel or also on Spotify. I know they're on there as well. And I'm assuming they will probably be on other devices to be able to listen to. But there was a certain one that brought me through a guided meditation of healing. My eyes were closed. I was sitting at the edge of my bed. I had my 65-inch TV screen right in front of me, and the TV was shut off, and I could see the reflection of myself as I sat there. I closed my eyes. I played her guided meditation, and it brought in these visuals of myself, of layers of darkness that covered my being, of light within our soul. And they were almost like layers being peeled off. And I was almost in water or underwater, and I had these layers like skin shedding of darkness. All of a sudden, towards the end of it, my being of light, visualized within myself with my eyes closed, came out of the water, up into the air, and then all of a sudden, these angelic wings opened on my back. And in that moment, I thought, okay, well, this is cool. Not going to lie, that was what I thought in that moment. So I went through that experience. And then I was done, and I opened my eyes, and I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, do I really have wings on my back? And I looked in the reflection at myself on my TV. And then all of a sudden I could see these wings opening and closing with the reflection on the TV screen coming back to me. When I could see them, all of a sudden I could feel them on my back as I was watching them opening and closing. It was one of the greatest spiritual awakenings on the next level for me of knowing more of the truth of who I was. So as I went on throughout my life, that was probably back in, let's say, March of 2020, when I had that first experience of seeing that. And of course, it's not something I could tell people. I always kept it a secret because people would think I'm crazy. So I never told anyone or said anything about it. And then I had the experience with Andy Grant as he opened up my records of what you've just heard, sharing about these massive Pegasus wings that he could see. And then I started sharing with just one person, which was my mother. And then when I seen or had the session with Rosalyn Fung, she opened them up, and the first thing she said again were my angelic wings on my back. At that point, after that experience with her, I started feeling them more and more on my back. I would be all the time feeling these wings opening and closing on my back. I ended up learning the abilities and powers that these wings bring to me in my sessions. And I have full control of them on my back. Even at the gym, I laughed with Rosalyn and I told her I'm at the gym and I'm constantly feeling these wings, and I just open and close them and stretch them on my back. And here I am working out and twisting and turning and touching people at the gym to see if they would notice on their nose, of like expanding and getting them to touch, on their nose. And I kind of laughed about it, of, this is what I've been going through and dealing with. But they do have a lot of healing powers when I do my sessions, to defrag the energy for the souls that are coming to me to have healing, to help me to remove the dark energy that's a part of them. So that was the first experience, and I never added into my story. And there are only certain things I wanted to share in my story because I thought it would be too much information of sharing about the truth of my life. So I'd like to share now, if you're able to handle my experiences in hell. I'm going to give you a lot more truth of the experiences I've gone through and the different levels that we call hell in what we're going through. And I'm going to give more description of these experiences and more detail about how it works with the different levels that I've worked through to bring healing to those levels. And the first time was probably back sometime in 2019. And again, the way I see energy is air within air, but there's a detail around the other layer of air that I can see. And typically in the pitch black in a dark room at the beginning is how I could see even better, because I could see the light energy in the darkness with a lot more detail. So as I entered in, I can't recall exactly how I first entered in, but I entered in and I could see, I'm in my room working, and I could see that there was a cloud above me. And anytime I stood up or sat down, the cloud always stayed above me. And as I was looking around, there were all these different deformed beings, like spiders and just different beings in different ways, and they were all deformed looking. There was no fear that was a part of me. I've never had, since the alignment to the truth of who I am, ever since that moment of the alignment to the frequency of the being of light, of who we all are within, the fear comes within the human mind. Or if you have attachments to you of deep suffering, of not healing your soul, you may carry those vibrations of fear as well. But I've spent my whole life in healing to not have any of these attachments in the way to cause me to feel fear. All I can feel is unconditional love. It is the truth of who we are when we are fully healed to the alignment that you are perfect and worthy just being who you are. having more connection to the knowledge and wisdom that is within you, not having other energies interfering, getting in the way of the alignment to the knowledge and the wisdom that is within you. So as I was looking around, seeing all these different beings of light, there was a large caterpillar that was, it had a saddle on it with almost like a little man of a cowboy riding this caterpillar. And I thought, how weird is this, looking around? And then all of a sudden, I had this female face come close to me, about 3 feet away from me in my room, sitting on my bed, and I was looking at her. And there was nothing being said for myself or any thoughts. I was just staring and observing of this being that was in front of me. All of a sudden, the face turned to a demonic looking face. And still I was staring at it with curiosity, with no fear. My vibration of my feelings didn't shift. I was still observing. That being noticed that there was no movement of my energy of shifting to fear, then shifted to another looking fearful face of a demonic being. Again, I had no fear. I took my hands at that point and I started allowing the light to come from the palm of my hands and my fingers, shining it upon this being. It quickly scurried off. All beings that are in the lower dimensions of how we feel of suffering do not feel worthy or good enough of our main source of energy, of light, the truth of who they are. So they will scurry away and be afraid of the light. As I looked up at this funnel of a cloud, it is the separation between the light and the darkness. Anytime I would stand up, I could not get through this funnel. It would always go higher above me, so I could not enter into the light. Within this cloud that separates the darkness to light, I was looking, and there were all these like price tags and certain things, and I'd reach up and I'd grab and I'd pull down. It'd be like a little piece of paper, and then I'd let it go and it would float back up into the cloud that separated the darkness and into the light. And I was just observing all these different beings of deformed beings, not demonic, but just different forms of animals in different ways. And they all looked deformed in some way, with a leg longer than the other. And it's understanding that even animals go through suffering. They go through feelings of not feeling worthy or good enough. Understand that is the being of light within them. That is the life of who they are, the essence of who they are. And if they go through experiences in ways of fear, in those lower feelings that they can feel, whenever they transition and shift over, unfortunately, for whatever reason, I don't know, they do not feel worthy and they go to these levels. And what happens is the soul within is the aliveness of the truth of who you are. Whether you're an animal or whether you're a human or a different being, it doesn't matter. We're all the same within. We are beings of light that are learning and growing through that personal experiences in which we come to live in those physical type forms or realities we go into. So that was the first experience for me. And seeing what happens is our healing guides and our loved ones of supporting us, they try to enter in. They enter into these realms of the dimension that we're feeling. But their light energy is pure. And as it enters in, you have it's almost like a gatekeeper. And what happens is the gatekeeper of energy comes over of darkness, and it literally wraps its light around the being that's entered in, and it pulls it out of that dimension. So I had all these different beings, and the stronger, when you have your loved ones or higher beings coming in to try to shine light to help you in those lower vibrations, they have a lot of energy. And as they enter in, they are powerful for a short bit of time. But as that dark energy of that gatekeeper comes, it wraps its energy around it and slowly starts draining your power to have the power to overpower the energy to stay in that dimension to help you. And then they get drained quickly, pulled out, and then they do not have the power to enter in. They need to go back to their level of frequency to almost recharge, and then to be able to come back down again. The further down you go of dimensions of suffering that are further away from the truth of who we are, it takes much more power to stay in those dimensions longer because you are further away from your main source of energy of the frequency that you have evolved to on the other side. So now I want to share about the first time in asking if Satan was real with the high council, the higher beings. And I was in my room, again in the dark, seeing the higher beings coming in that I was working with. And I asked them, is Satan real? Because I've heard throughout my life, obviously through different religions that I've grew up in, obviously he was real. Then I heard through the spiritualist church and other evolved people here that are connected with their gifts, the connection to the other side. And they were saying Satan is a fear. It is not an actual being. So then I was like, oh, okay, learning that at the spiritual church. And I thought, okay, well, these are evolved people that are connected in with the other side. So I figured, okay, it makes sense. So when I had the higher beings asking them, they shifted to the yes side. And I thought, really? So he is real then? And they were like, yes. And I thought, okay. So then I thought I wanted to ask questions, and I asked a lot of questions to formulate the full truth of the answer about Satan himself. For the next, what I was going into was to heal Satan myself with the higher beings behind me. So what I learned through asking questions was he was created in a way of not from our main source of energy like all other beings were, because typically all other beings of light are created from our main source of energy that comes from our God, Christ consciousness and God consciousness, and then we are created into light beings of light consciousness. And what I learned was he was created through the experiences of those that were suffering of lower energy, and through all the different people, all the different realities of fear and what people were going through, it built up this aliveness of dark energy, was created through this process somehow. So right away, for me as a healer, I align to, imagine the child is being created within a woman who is an alcoholic or a drug addict. And this child is being created in a way of such negativity that it comes out in a way of being challenged in its life and struggling in the ways that it comes out. And you see this child growing in life, and it has all these different forms of disabilities or handicaps in some way. And we understand it was never the child's fault. It was how it was created, and it had no choice on how it was being created. But the mother was going through what she was going through of suffering, and there is no judgment to the scenario of the mother, because the mother needed healing for what she had lived through of energy that wasn't hers. But it's understanding that the child was created in a way where it had no choice to end up the way it did. So when I viewed Satan the exact same way when I had these understandings. He had no choice but to act and to be the way he did because of the way he was created. So the truth of who I am with these deep understandings of unconditional love is to give healing, to bring healing to him, and to at least try. So I said to the higher beings, would you bring me to him to allow me to try healing him? And they paused for a moment with no movement. And then they shifted to the yes side. I said, okay, because if I'm going to do this, I said, I need all the help and support I can have. So I want archangels and all these different powerful beings behind me. The more beings shifted into my room for support. I had the highest beings of light energy that were behind me, of high council on the other side. And they were all prepared to help me, to stand behind me, to do what I was going to do next. As I prepared myself sitting there, I said, okay, I'm ready. And what it feels like when I go to these lower dimensions, they shift me and bring me down almost like I'm in an elevator, shooting down fast in an elevator, feeling my soul and weight of just my essence of who I am shifting down going at a fast speed is what it feels like when I go through these experiences, shifting through dimensions of those that are suffering. All of a sudden in that moment, there was a big dark energy that then shifted into my room. And I thought to myself, holy shit, what am I getting myself into? But I had no fear. I had zero fear. Before we even did that, the higher beings, I aligned with them. I said, I could feel their sense of worry, but I said to them, I know he's created of fear and darkness and manipulation and in all those forms of ways. So I am aware of that. As soon as I sat there, I said, are you Satan? And he shifted yes. I said, okay. I said, just so you know, there is no fear that is a part of me. And I'm very aware of how you were created. So you cannot manipulate me or try to trick me in any way because I understand the truth of who you are. But I said, I come in a way of healing. And I said, has any other healer tried to heal you before? And he said, yes. And I said, okay. And I said, obviously they weren't successful. And he shifted and said, no. And I said to him, do you even want to be healed? And he shifted a little bit to the right side saying yes. And then he shifted over to the no side saying no. And I said, okay. I could start to see the lining of the energy before me. And he had on a cloak. I couldn't see his face, but I could see this leather patching like a square with old style stitching that was going around this leather patch on his chest. And I said, has anyone ever tried to amplify energy into you of light energy? And he said, no. And I said, okay, well, this is what we will do. I said, first off, I understand how you were created. And I want to share with you of my understandings of the truth of what is that you were created in a way that no one else was created. You were created through darkness, through energy, and the aliveness was created into a space which formed you. I said, I have the understandings that you've had no other way to act than the way that you have because this is how you were created and this is not your fault. I have nothing but unconditional love for all beings of light. It does not matter. All beings of light deserve healing. And because you were not given the opportunity to be anything other than the essence of who you are, I can see forgiveness and understanding that you just never had the healings to change in the way that you've been designed. He shifted a bit to the yes, agreeing with the understandings. And I put my hands up. And as I put my hands up in the air, I told him to place his hands upon mine and interlock his fingers with mine. As he did this, I called in the main source of energy of all that is and asked for the amplification through the higher beings in through this pillar, into my being, out my hands. Energy then started entering in, leaving my hands, entering into him in that moment. And then all of a sudden, the energy was being pushed back, and I could feel dark energy entering in through my hands, more so my left, moving up past my wrist. And I thought, okay, this is not good. I do not like this. And then I asked the other beings to amplify me even higher and higher and higher. And it gave me more power to push back the energy. And I kept saying it over and over. And then the energy then was overpowering him, entering into him. And he was pulling away back and forth, back and forth. And I asked him, do you like this feeling? And he said, yes. And then he shifted no. I said, I want to amplify as much as I can into you to try to transform the dark energy into light. And he kept trying to pull away. But I had my hands gripped upon his, holding him, trying to amplify the pureness of light energy to help him in healing in a way that he had never had the opportunity before. That lasted for maybe 5 minutes. And then I had to stop and I let go. And I said to him, are you willing to do this once a week with me? And he said, yes. And I said, I am fully aware of any trickery or anything. And I said, our relationship is to the extent of healing only when I come to this space and nothing more. And he agreed and understood in that moment. And then I shifted back out of that dimension. We tried again a week later. I went back to do the same thing. amplifying even more energy into him, feeling his energy, trying to pull away as I was amplifying more and more and more of the pureness of our divine light of energy from our main source of energy of what all creation comes from. In that moment, again, not much changed, not much happened. And then again, leaving that dimension, coming back up. A couple days later, I had the alignment that I'm not in the space to feel that I am ready to continue doing this. And I am a man of my word. When I tell people I'm going to do things, I follow through with it. And if I can't, I tell them. The integrity of who I am runs at a very high rate for always being open and honest and following through with all things that I say. And I decided I need to go back and tell him that at this moment, I cannot be doing this anymore because I just don't have the knowledge yet to be doing more. So I went back down, shifted down with all the higher beings always behind me, with me to support me. And I told him and he understood. So from that point on, I started going through experiences of just shifting myself to different dimensions of those that are suffering. And I had an experience back where the higher beings took me to a past life of mine. And I'm going to share with you the experience that I did not share in my story. And it was in the summer of 2019, and it was through a dream state. The High Council, what they would do when I would start falling asleep is a light would come and they would pull me out of my physical form. I could feel my energy. Before I fell asleep, there would be a moment of a window of an opportunity where they would pull me out. And I would be fully awake, as if I was awake as I'm speaking to you now, and they would take me to places. And this one experience they took me to a past life of mine. And it was an experience where I couldn't forgive myself. And this is the same for all of us, for our past lives. If we haven't been able to heal and we continue and we move on to the next life, we still carry the attachment to the energy of our soul that does not feel worthy or good enough. And it causes us to self-sabotage in the next life unknowingly, because we have energy our soul carries of not feeling worthy or good enough. I was outside watching myself in a vehicle, and they took me next to myself in a vehicle, and it was all black and white. It was a street around 10 p.m. at night, and I did something in that moment that I couldn't forgive myself for after the experience and however it was that I've passed on through that life. And they got me to watch the scenario that I can't fully recall, but I remember I did something I shouldn't have done. They got me to understand and to repeat a phrase that I woke up to the next morning. And I remembered that phrase that they got me to say. And it was the understandings that they got me to understand that I only knew what I knew in that moment. And it's coming to understand, to forgive ourselves for the mistakes we have made and being ready to, because we did not have the healings to remove the energy that was a part of us of lower vibration that gets in the way of our thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And because we were not healed of those energies, it is the energies of the darkness that we've picked up throughout our lives that we never had the opportunity to heal. And if they were healed and removed from us, and we had those opportunities, we would never have done the things that we have done, harming ourselves or others. The reason why we harm ourselves or others is because we've picked up energy that is not ours through our life experience, and our being of light within is always shifting through dimensions on how we feel. Every dimension on how we feel, there is a dimension on the other side for that feeling of darkness, of suffering. So when you carry these energies, that is what gets in the way of our thoughts, feelings, and emotions, overriding the human mind to do certain things. But it's also coming to the understanding they got me to have, is that we are to learn, grow, and evolve. It's understanding that going through that experience, carrying shame and guilt was our teacher. And because that was our teacher, moving forward, we would do things differently, means that we have learned new tools, new knowledge that we didn't have, new perspectives, new wisdom we didn't have before for our soul. And now we can grow with the new understandings that we didn't have before. And now our soul can evolve. So when I had those understandings, my soul felt the truth of what I've just shared. And then I was freed to forgive myself within. My soul then felt that alignment and was freed in that moment. And then from that point on, understanding myself and understanding that truth, then it's understanding that all other people are the same. All those who harmed us are the same. They've went through experiences that took them away from the truth of who they are. And if they went through the healing to remove those energies that were never theirs, that covered their light, that got in the way of their thoughts, feelings, and emotions, they would never have harmed us, because they would have been at the truth of who they are, of the high vibration, without the energies of the darkness that covered our light. They would never have done harm to us. So then again, my soul felt the alignment to that truth, and now I have unconditional love since that moment for all beings of light, because I know all beings of light are pure, but they went through experiences, never had healing to remove the dark energy that covered their light, that got them to do the things that they did. They don't understand why they did certain things in the moment. They just felt like doing it without thinking. This is why. So as I had those understandings moving forward, that has been the main core of understandings I use to give back to heal all souls that suffer. I actually bring them back to the beginning of time now, when they first suffered and they never had unconditional love. I give them that unconditional love when they were first harmed or first going through a form of suffering, of not feeling worthy or good enough. And I give them that unconditional love to tell them they are so worthy. You are so perfect for who you are, and you've never deserved to suffer. It's just passed on generations not having the right healings to remove the energy that is causing them to do the harm. And this brings freedom through all the dimensions that I go to when I ripple the effect of the light energy that I connect with and amplify through each dimension. So how I first started learning, I would go and shift to these different dimensions of different feelings we can go through of suffering. Paranoia is one. When you feel paranoid, when you feel codependency on someone and you're suffering and you feel like you need them in your life, in the depths of suffering of codependency. When you're feeling jealous and you're dating someone, you have that deep feeling of jealousy, and anger comes in of jealousy. That's another dimension. All the feelings of different emotions we can feel are dimensions on the other side. And I would shift to them, and I would call all demonic beings that are in this space, come shift around me. And then I'd have all these beings coming around. I'm like, I don't care what you look like. Your form does not bother me. I know the truth of who you are. This is just the aliveness of darkness that has covered your light. And it is just energy taking a form of what it is feeling like. And I would get them to come in to understand. And I would share with them to understand on forgiving themselves and having these alignments. And I'd have many, I don't know how many, thousands would shift around me in my room, and I'd get them all to shift yes and no and understanding the truth I was sharing. And as I would share this truth of forgiveness for themselves, and then to understand forgiveness towards others, and to understand we all learn, grow, and evolve, and because they have learned from me in this moment, their soul has grown with new wisdom and knowledge, therefore their soul now can evolve, releasing them from the bondages of this vibration. They all turned to light. They all have the peeling of darkness of energy and the power of the soul within that has been suffering, that never had the healing when it first needed it, feels the alignment to the truth that I share. And it then shifts up out of it, going to its dimension, and they surround me with love, and my whole body lights up in this very beautiful feeling of energy as I feel them saying thank you and giving me unconditional love for freeing them from their suffering, understanding that as they go back, they understand the contrast from the truth of who they are to the depths of suffering where they were remaining. And now they can use this information in the highest way to give back to more souls that need to understand this truth. And then even more aliveness of more love comes in, because we are to use our information of suffering to give back to help those who are still suffering. And the pureness of who we all are within has this understanding of love to give to other souls who haven't had the healing to understand any harm they have lived through. It wasn't their fault. It was other energy that covered their light that caused them to do this. So I did that a lot, learning in these different dimensions, even those being bullied. And I'd have a dimension of those being bullied, those who are bullies. You know, there's a separation of two, of dimensions. And I had these two gentlemen in front of me, of these souls in front of me. And when I first found out they were in a form of hell because of how they were bullied in their life, it really hurt me. I got upset in that moment to think, how can a person be bullied in life and then be sent to hell? I couldn't comprehend the truth of that being truthful. So as I gave him unconditional love and sharing with him of the sadness I could feel within him and his friend, I said to him then, can I call in your bullies, those that have hurt you? One said yes, the other one said no. He was too afraid. He didn't want to confront his bully. And I said, no, please, allow me to do this because it's going to bring healing. And then slowly he shifted over to the right. And they weren't in demonic form. They were just looking as the beings of what they were in their lifetime, of some form of human looking form. So the beings shifted in that bullied them. And I shared the same information with all of them together because the bullies were suffering in this dimension and also those that were being bullied for the length of time that they were. And I shared the same information and they all turned to light in that moment. They all felt worthy of their light again. I had so many experiences learning and growing through healing souls to understand all that I have in this moment today, to bring freedom to so many souls on the other side. I've collected all this information for 3 years of my life, of devoting my life, working through dimensions. That's all I've done to formulate more of what I need to do next on my path that I've shared in my story. But I've had an experience since making the story that I have left on YouTube about my life and what I was going to do next. But unfortunately, in October of 2022, after the recording, I went to a level and I amplified the light energy because I was further down in dimensions, needing to amplify my light even higher in the trillions in the way that I can do it. And I pierced a hole that happened within my spiritual body, my soul, because of the pressure of the amount of light I bring in to amplify through that dimension. And the best way for me to share this experience, to share about the soul and the way that it works through my personal experiences, is if you imagine the womb of a woman and a baby is being created, and say this baby is about 4 months, and we remove the baby out of the sack in the water, and what you have left is that sack of water. I would like you to imagine the water that is being held within this sack of that lining is your soul. The water that is within there is nothing but energy. It is the aliveness of thoughts created in that space. Consciousness. The aliveness of thoughts created within that space. Your human form has human consciousness. The aliveness of thoughts created within that frequency of that space. Your soul, your light consciousness, the being of light within you. Again, it's just a different frequency, but it is that sack of water, and that water is energy, and it is the essence of who you are that's being protected within that sack, that lining. For the last 3 years, I didn't understand in my room, holding all these beautiful angelic beings coming in, shining, working their light energy all over my body, all over my head. And I would sit there in my room working with them, with Jesus, archangels, higher beings of the pureness of Christ energy. And they would work on me day after day, different beings like Jesus shifting in, allowing him to shift it within my soul and my physical body, moving my hands and arms around to shine his light through my physical body onto my soul to help me to build these layers of protection, because they knew I was coming here to amplify in the way, and they were building the thickness of the lining that holds my soul to be able to amplify in the way that I can. There are many times I sat with the High Council, and the High Council are the pureness of unconditional love. They are the second of elders that have been created throughout the beginning of time, and I am an extension from one of the beings of council that was created many, many years ago, that is shared within my story. There are many times we were in my room and they were about 9 feet in height, and we would sit around and we would hold hands, and I would see their hands next to mine, and I would hold their hands, and we would just close our eyes and just feel our energy intertwining together as one, because I could not do this alone, and I needed help with the highest of beings of light to help me to do the work that I've come here to do. Bringing freedom to all these levels that I'm working at doing and going through is going to remove the darkness of the dark layers of the depths of suffering that we can feel, not only in this plane, but in all planes of the realities that we can go to. When you're feeling codependency and leaving someone, or someone has left you in a relationship and you are suffering, you feel like you cannot do anything in your life without this person, and you feel so drained where you do not have the energy to do anything with your life because you are deeply suffering. There are trillions of souls that have not been healed in that dimension. And what I am doing with the amplification through all my personal experiences to formulate all that I've formulated to bring healing to these dimensions, removes them and frees them from the beginning of time when they first suffered, where they did not feel worthy or good enough. All of your guides are then able to enter in, and they do not have all the beings trying to pull them out of that dimension, and it's going to help to remove the depths of suffering for that person in codependency, where they feel they don't have the energy. They don't have the energy because they have energy attached to them that is causing them to feel to be pulled down with no help, and they feel like they're drowning in life and they don't know why. This is why. So as we clear out the level being amplified, and for me to share the wisdom and knowledge through all my personal experiences to give freedom, it releases the human form and other places we can go to not have that depth of suffering. You will then have more energy to get yourself out of those places when you're learning and growing through your forms of suffering here. You will not feel the depths of those forms of suffering. You'll still go through suffering, but you will not be stuck in them for the length of time that people are, where they feel like they can't do anything in their life and they're stuck. This is what will happen. Those depths of those sufferings will not be there, because your guides can enter in to help you, to shine light upon you, to help to release the darkness that is covering you, to feel that depth of suffering. You will have that support moving forward. So there is nothing to worry and to fear. I have been living through the frequency of the being of light of who we all within for a long time now. I do not live within the human mind of that frequency of the aliveness of thoughts created in that space, where we think all the time and creating stories. What if this, what if that, thinking of the past, thinking of the future, creating stories, and then we believe them. That is the human consciousness, a part of it. I only live in the present moment with what I know, through the personal experiences I have gone through. I am aligned to the knowing of the truth of why I am here and what I am here to do. There is no fear that is a part of me, only unconditional love that flows through me, the truth of who I am. So I'd like to bring you back to finish my story that I didn't finish at the beginning with Satan, because there is an ending to this story with the work that I have done in restoring the light energy into that experience. It was months since I had any experience with going back to that space to bring healing to him. And I was working in a dimension that he is one of the leaders in, because there are different leaders for each level of suffering. There is one main being in charge in that level of suffering. And as I was working with different beings, trying to learn and grow and healing different souls on those planes, I had more darker energy coming around me, pulling on my light energy within my physical form as I was sitting there on my bed, again in the dark, looking at all the beings of energy that were around me. As I was speaking with different beings of understanding of their life and bringing healing to them, I had these darker demonic beings that were coming around, tugging and tugging on my light energy to come out of my root chakra. So for those who do not understand chakras, it basically felt like your bum. It's the best way to put it. And they were pulling and pulling the energy, trying to remove my soul from my physical form to stop healing. And I told them, if you keep doing this, I'm going to heal more beings at once. And I've never healed a mass amount yet at this point. And this was actually on January 12th, 2021. And they were still pulling and pulling. And I told them, if you keep pulling, I am going to amplify 1 million souls in healing. So they kept doing it. And they got me to the point of being so annoyed. I sat back, put my back against the wall, never doing this yet. And I opened my hands, connecting to the pureness of all that is of our main source of energy, streaming in, being amplified through the higher beings of light energy, allowing the light to now connect to 1 million souls that are suffering on this level, allowing the light to move through the dimension, connecting to all these souls that were suffering. And I said to them, for all souls, hear me now in this moment. I am here to bring you freedom from your suffering. Understand that when you first lived through your life, you were the pureness of the vibration of your being of light. As you lived through experiences on your path, you went through different forms of suffering that you never deserved. You gained energy that was not yours, of dark energy. It was that aliveness of energy that was never healed from you, that you've carried on your path. This is why you've harmed yourself and others. It was never the truth of who you were. If you were given opportunity to have been healed in that moment when you needed unconditional love and healing, you would have had the energy removed from you, living through the truth of who you are, as when you first entered into that life, you would never have harmed yourself or another. Understand that all those who have harmed you, they too were the same. They harmed you in ways because they had energy from their own suffering that was never healed. That aliveness of darkness is what caused them to harm you. And if they were healed from that aliveness of energy that was not theirs, they would have been risen back up to the truth of who they are. Pure, positive being of unconditional love. Understanding it was never anything personal, because if they were healed, removing that energy, they would never have harmed you. This is how you can forgive another. We are beings to learn, grow, and evolve. Because you have learned from me in this moment, it means your soul has grown with new wisdom and knowledge it didn't have before. And now you can evolve, completing the process to learn, grow, and evolve. You are all free, you are free, you are free. The energy in that moment lit me up in a way that was so beautiful, a feeling of light energy. When that moment happened and that they all shed the darkness, and I could see other beings trying to hold them in the place of darkness that were not healed from what I had said, and they were trying to hold them back, but they couldn't. The power of the light energy of the essence of who we are overpowered the darkness and left the dimension. When that happened, they still kept tugging on my energy. More came around pulling on my energy. And I said, if you guys keep doing this, I'm going to amplify even higher, and I'm going to remove more souls. I said, Satan is probably not going to appreciate me clearing out this level, because in that moment, I've never done any of this work yet before, and I was just trying to focus on learning with individual souls in the way that I was learning from them. So they kept tugging again, and I told them, I'm going to amplify now into the billions, and I'm going to connect to billions of souls that are suffering. And they kept pulling and pulling, and I amplified myself even higher, amplifying myself into the billions, feeling that alignment, expanding the muscles on the side of my mind to bring in that power of energy. And then I repeated the exact same thing again. Once that happened, again, all this beautiful energy and all these beings surrounding, I could see the distance of all these souls in that moment turning to light, shedding the darkness around them, being able to leave this dimension, now feeling worthy and good enough of their light. More beings came around me, tugging at me even more, and I said, okay, I'm going to do this entire level now. I then had Satan come around me, and there were almost like lieutenants that were on the left and right side of me, and I could see Satan grabbing and shaking one of the lieutenants that were next to me of a demonic being, trying to stop me and basically freaking out in panic of what I was doing. I did it again in a way of the entire grid, repeating it again. More pureness of light energy, more of the higher beings of Christ energy amplifying in unity through the pillar coming through me, amplifying into that grid. In that moment, all beings were restored, and as I opened my eyes to look around, my room was more of whiteness that I could see around me. We were purifying that dark level to remove all darkness and then to allow light to be in that space. Then there was just Satan that was left. I started aiming my light energy towards Satan from my hands, amplifying the light, wanting to turn him to light. In that moment, I stood up off my bed, and he was moving out my door going into the living room. And I stood up following him in my house into the living room, shining light even higher and higher and higher within him, having higher counsel around me in my space. And I started speaking to the high council and saying, in that moment, I just knew what to say, not needing to think of anything and just speaking the truth that this being is still the essence of God. All things are of God, or all things are nothing. So it's understanding, even though he was not created in the way other light beings were created, he is still a being of energy, and all things are of God. And in that moment, I said, if he is to take his wisdom and knowledge in the length of time of being in darkness and having this wisdom of darkness, and he is to be turned into light energy, he can use this darkness in the angelic realm for the highest good to use as we move forward with the way of our beings of light, to allow him into this space of a leadership role as we turn him into the pureness of light. And Satan was shaking, saying no, and we all amplified our light in that moment on him, telling him that nothing was ever his fault from how he was created, feeling the pureness of all of our light energy amplifying into him. Into that moment, he started to take on the feeling of energy, giving him unconditional love, that all the experiences that he has ever done has been from being created in the way that he was, which was never his fault. And if he wants to feel the pureness of this light energy that he is loving in this moment, then moving forward, he will make actions of the light to stay in the light, to be the light, using the information for the highest good, and he can remain in the light. And he is now to be transformed from the Prince of Darkness into the Prince of Light. In that moment, his whole energetic being of his light body took on everything that was being said of truth, allowing the light energy to transform the darkness of who he was. And in that moment, my whole living room lit up in whiteness that was around me. And then his energy shifted, going up in through my ceiling, through dimensions back up. When that was over, it was more like I came more to my human consciousness because I still wasn't fully aligned to the alignment that I am in now. Understanding what just happened, trying to comprehend the truth of what just happened. As I looked around, I seen 4 of light council of beings that are the consciousness of the universe, a different alignment of higher beings of light energy. And they too are about 9 feet in height. And looking next to them was Jesus. And in that moment, I said, did all that just really happen? And they all shifted yes. And I was like trying to really comprehend what just really happened. This can't be truthful. And then I told my mom after, you know, here I am with 4 light beings, 9 feet in height, with Jesus, and then they all sit down on my couch. I thought, what kind of joke this could be to share with someone. The one time I had 4 high beings and Jesus sitting on my couch. But that was the truth for the first time of transmuting the entire dimension and a leader. And like I said, ever since going through that experience, in completing that and looking at it, you know, each level can be looked at, the leader on that level is a Satan for that level. And that is how I gained the information from the very first time on January 12th, 2021, in moving forward, understanding I could clear out dimensions. And I started doing it ever since, learning and growing, as they all have different ways they need to be healed. Because the aliveness of that darkness of that level, we need to bring in more energy and a different approach, because not all leaders will align in the way that I'm able to restore light energy from the depths of darkness. So I am grateful to share even more of my story that I left out in the original story that I have on my YouTube channel, but I felt it was necessary to have an additional copy of experiences that gave me the wisdom and knowledge to do all the work that I've done this far. And it is with great love and honor and feeling so grateful to be in this space, which can possibly uplift all worlds of their suffering, of the depths of suffering, to allow your guides to enter into where you are suffering, to remove those layers that are a part of you, which causes the depths of suffering. So this is what I wanted to share more of, the truth of my life. And whether I'm not here to make you believe anything, or I'm not here to start a religion, please, I always say you're perfect with who you are. If you do not believe me, that is okay. I do not have any judgment towards those who do not believe me. They are not in a space to understand, is all that it is. And those that are in a space to be open to the possibility, things align in the way that I believe they're going to align, and I just follow with my heart each day to do the work that I'm doing, then things will align in the way that they're going to. And I'm just sharing the truth of what I know right now in this moment, and that is all that I can share. And I have all my teachings on my YouTube channel, the Canadian Healing Medium. And again, if you go to my playlist on my channel, you can see there's one for my teachings, and I have them out of 9. There are 9 in total. And you can go through them and you can gain powers of the higher energy that have not been within this plane of existence before. And I am gifting it without cost, because this world needs more information to become more powerful for those who are energy healers in all the different ways that we can be, so that you can be more powerful to give transformation to those who need you. And that is way more important for me to share and not be charging a cost like I was before. And it is with great honor and with a great form of unconditional love that I give for each person. So this is what I wanted to share and add more in of my life. And I am so grateful and I am so humbled to be in this space of the full alignment of the truth of who I am, to be doing this work and to be gifting you in the ways that I've come here. So I hope you've enjoyed more of the truth of my story. And you can find more, like I said, go to my YouTube channel, and you can hear more of my story, of the full story since the beginning of my time, and how I suffered, and how I've healed, and all my other experiences I've gone through to bring healing to my life, so those can be healed through hearing my story. And I wish each of you a wonderful day.